Let's talk to Vinay Kapoor, spokesperson for the Free Speech Union. Vinay, very good morning to you.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good to talk to you. Yeah, I'm good. I'm getting a bit sick of the lies coming out of this government, though, I have to say, but perhaps we'll leave that for another day. Obviously, we're going to talk about Charlie Kirk and the terrible events in Utah this week, and they're still looking for the guy that killed him. There is a kind of sense, even in this country, that there's a polarisation, isn't there, of people's points of view about this. I find it hard to believe that there are people in the world who think it's a good thing that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And what are you finding?
Yeah, I mean, everyone at the Free Speech Union is obviously incredibly saddened, like the majority of people in this country. I think in the world, such an unexpected tragedy, the way it was done. And obviously we send our condolences, all of us from across all our Free Speech Unions in other countries as well, in Free Speech Union International. And as you say, you know, there are people who are celebrating this. We've seen this on X, read it in the Daily Mail this morning, and obviously I don't think that's the way forward. I think the way forward is to transcend our resentment that I think a lot of people have right now, and just to realize that there's a human element to all this. You know, politics is a dirty game sometimes. There are different opinions. You're not always going to agree, but to celebrate death, I think that goes a bit too far, to put it very lightly.
No, absolutely right. No question at all. And the rhetoric that comes from the left in particular, I mean, we saw it this week with John McDonnell talking about Nigel Farage, likening him to Adolf Hitler, and using that kind of really, you know, negative, nasty, horrible, ghastly rhetoric where, you know, they sort of paint anyone who doesn't agree with them as somehow evil, as some kind of, you know, force that needs to be wiped out. And that's, you know, unfortunately in America, I've been talking to people this morning in America who say, you know, this could get a lot worse.
Yeah, and I think that's the tragedy. I think what it shows, especially from a free speech point of view, why free speech has never been more important, especially if we may, and hopefully not, we may now be living in a world where things like this happen. You know, it shows that it's never been more important to debate. We need to settle our differences in the battle of ideas, not in other ways that lead to people's deaths and to physical harm being done. So I think we reiterate the call for people to get around the table, debate, disagree with people you don't agree with. That's the beauty of free speech. That's the beauty of living in a liberal democracy. And if we don't do that, then we risk horrible things happening. And that's genuinely tragic, I think, because, as I said, because of the human element of all this. So we should debate more, we should discuss more. And that's obviously what we're trying to campaign to do at the Free Speech Union with all our work.
And that was very much what Charlie Kirk was all about. I mean, you know, he started his career as a guy who would go to college campuses when he wasn't even a student, and just put a table down with a sign that said, "Debate me."
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of what Charlie Kirk did, is he was a man who would go with his opinions, and his opinions, you know, were controversial. People didn't like them, but that was the point, because he would go head on to the places where a lot of these issues have come up, where a lot of people think free speech isn't happening at universities, and to go and challenge them, and more importantly, to listen to them, to debate them, and then everyone would come away learning something, and that's the beauty of it. And obviously he had this whole tour planned. You know, very sadly now that's not going to be able to happen. And again, I think those are the ways to win people's minds, to change people's opinions on both sides, to debate and to discuss. And obviously that's the beauty of what he did, and we very much praise it at the Free Speech Union.
Of course. Let's have a look at Donald Trump last night, who awarded Charlie Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Charlie was a giant of his generation, a champion of liberty, and an inspiration to millions and millions of people. Our prayers are with his wonderful wife, Eric, and his beautiful children. Fantastic people they are. We miss him greatly, yet I have no doubt that Charlie's voice and the courage he put into the hearts of countless people, especially young people, will live on. I'm pleased to announce that I will soon be awarding Charlie Kirk posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The date of the ceremony will be announced, and I can only guarantee you one thing, that we will have a very big crowd.
Yeah. It's a very shocking event that happened this week, and it's going to be interesting to see how America kind of copes with it, really.
Yeah, indeed. I think, you know, from the point of view of the Americans, you know, we might think we have it bad in the UK, but You know, there are worse things you could say going on there. And I think, you know, the country's polarized itself so much. There was the attempted assassination on Trump. There were other assassinations on Trump, other killings of political figures. And I think it shows why it's never been more important to have freedom of speech. It's never been more important to debate. It's never been more important, as I said, to get around a table and discuss. Not just because of other factors, but because it could lead to things like this if we don't do it. And I think this should be a wake-up call for the liberal world to say, actually, this is going too far. We need to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Vinay, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Vinay Kapoor, spokesperson of the Free Speech Union.